Good morning, guys. How are you today? It's Miss Trenholm here for 7th grade math. Today we're going to be talking about surface area of solids. Now, last week, remember we talked about aquariums and how much water it was going to take to fill those aquariums up. So this week we're going to be talking about how much paper or bubble wrap it takes to cover something. So last week we talked about how much it took to fill stuff up. Today we're going to talk about how much paper or something we're going to use to cover something. So today we're going to be talking about surface area. Today we're going to explore how to find surface area of composite figures by decomposing it into faces, sides, tops, and bottoms. But before we get started, do you remember last week I gave you a challenge question at the end of the lesson? And I asked you to see if you could figure out how much water it was going to take to fill this aquarium up. Because the principal liked this one, I gave you a hint that there was a hole in the middle of the aquarium. So did you take the time to see if you could figure that one out? Well, let's see if we can get the answer. So if we look at this aquarium, we have a total volume of 8 centimeters times 4 centimeters times 5 centimeters, which gives us a total volume of 160 centimeters cubed. But remember, I told you that there was a hole in the middle of it. So I asked you, did we have to add or subtract? And if you said subtract, that was correct. So let's find out what the volume of this hole in the middle of this aquarium is, and we'll subtract it. So if you see, we have a hole in the middle, which is 4 centimeters by 1 centimeter by centimeters from 160 centimeters, we end up for a total volume of the principal's aquarium of 140 centimeters cubed. I'm glad you took the challenge. I hope you got the same answer that we did. So today we're going to look at surface area, okay? So surface area is the total area on the surface of a three-dimensional figure. So let me see if I can kind of show you a little bit. You see my bubble wrap? So we need to wrap some of these boxes in bubble wrap, or at least the aquariums for last week. So when we're looking at surface area, we need to take the whole figure into consideration. So we have to find the area of the top, the bottom, the front, the back, and both of the sides. And we find the area of all of these, we have to add them all up. So that's how much bubble wrap or how much paper it's going to take to cover any kind of particular shape that we're looking for. So remember, we have top, bottom, front, back, and then the two sides. So today we're going to learn how to figure out the area of all these different shapes and all these faces of a prism, and we're going to add them all together to find the total surface area. So today, welcome to the Prism Packing Company. So last week we had some aquariums, and we need to find out how much bubble wrap it's going to take to cover those aquariums. So let's get started. Remember, our first aquarium last week was just a regular aquarium, kind that you would see in most pet stores. But now we've got to break it down, because last week we just filled it up with water, but this week we've got to find how much bubble wrap or how much paper we need to wrap around it to protect it so we can get it to the teachers. So we have to break this figure apart, okay? So if we look at it, we have the top and the bottom. The top is way up here and the bottom's down here. So we need to find the area of the top and bottom, okay? So it's length times the width of the top and bottom. So that's 36 centimeters times 12. Can you see that? 36 times 12. We have a top and a bottom. So we have 36 times 12 plus 36 times 12, which gives us a total for the top and the bottom of 164 centimeters squared. So now we've got our top and bottom. So now we have to figure out the front and the back, just like I showed you on the box. So now we've got the front of the aquarium and the back side of the aquarium. So the front, of course, is 36, but the back of the aquarium is 18. So we have two, front and a back. So we have to do 36 times 18 plus 36 times 18 for a total area of the front and back of 196 centimeters squared. Okay, so we've got the top, the bottom, the front, and the back. So now we have to do the two sides. Side 1 and side 2. We have 18 times 12. If you can see, 18 times 12. We have two of those. So 18 times 12 plus 18 times 12 is 432 centimeters squared. We have the top, we have the bottom, we have the front, we have the back, and now we have the two sides. So we have to add all of those together. So we have the top and bottom as 864, the front and back of 1,296, and then we have the two sides of 432. So we have a total surface area of 2,592 centimeters squared. That means it's going to take us 2,592 centimeters of paper or bubble wrap to cover this particular aquarium. Now this was a pretty easy one because it's basically rectangles. Now we're going to move to a little bit harder one. So I hope you're up for this one. Aquarium 2 has a triangle in it. Ooh, I think we can do this. So first we have to decide what the bases are. So if you look, we have a triangle on the front and the back, or the top and the bottom, however you want to sit it. If you lay it like this, it's going to be the front and the back. If you turn it up on its end, it's going to be the top and the bottom. So we have two triangles. So if you look right over here, we're separating it. We have triangle 1 and triangle 2. That's this one and then the one in the back. So then we're going to break the rest of it apart. We have 3 rectangles. Okay? So we have one rectangle, another rectangle, and another rectangle. So we have 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. So now we have to figure out the area of each triangle and all 3 rectangles and then add them all together. So let's look at the first triangle. Okay? On our triangles, it's 1/2 times base times height. So let's look right here. Triangle 1, it's right there. We have 1/2 times base times height. Well, the base on our triangle is 6, and the height of our triangle is 4, because it's the dotted line. So we have 1/2 times 6 times 4 gives us 1/2 times 24, which gives us 12 feet squared. So we have our first triangle and our second triangle, they are equal. So we do the exact same thing for triangle number 2. 1/2 times base times height, 1/2 times 6 times 4 equals 1/2 times 24, which equals 12 foot squared. So now we have both of our triangles. We found the area of both of our triangles. Now we have to move to our rectangles. So let's look at the first rectangle. The first rectangle we're going to call face 3. It is 5 foot by 8 foot. So we know that when you find the area of a rectangle, it's length times width. So look right over here. Length times width. 8 times 5, 8 times 5, which gives us 40 feet squared. So that's face 3. So let's look at face 4. These two are identical. So we have the same exact area for face 3 and face 4. So face 4 is length times width, which is 8 times 5, which is 40 foot squared. Now the bottom of our aquarium has a little different length and width. It's a little wider. So face 5 is going to be the bottom where our aquarium was sitting on. So its length and width is 8 and 6. So on face 5, if you can see it down at the very bottom, right down here, on face 5 we have length times width is 8 times 6, which is 48 feet squared. Whew. Okay, so we have face 1 and face 2, and then all of our 3 rectangles. So now we have to add them all together. So let's see. On face 1, we have 12 foot squared. On face 2, we have 12 foot squared. Face 3, 40 foot squared. Face 4, 40 foot squared. And then face 5 is 48 feet squared. So when we add all those together, we get 152 foot squared. So it's going to take 152 feet of paper to cover our triangular prism aquarium. Wow. That's pretty good. We're getting there, aren't we? Aquarium number 3. Oh, wow. This one looks scary, doesn't it? Well, let's first decide what kind of area or what kind of figure we're looking at. So let's look. Can you figure out what kind of figure it is? It's not a triangle, and it's not a rectangle. You're right, it's a trapezoid. So, little different. You have to remember, we have to figure out the area of the trapezoid, and then we have to figure out the area of all the rest of the sides around it. So let's start with the trapezoid first. So you see our trapezoid right here. So do you remember what the formula is for a trapezoid to find the area? Let me scoot over here, I'm going to show you. Right here on our trapezoid, it's base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. So on our trapezoid, here we go, base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. Now we have 2 matching trapezoids, one on the front and one on the back. So let's look. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. So we have 6, that's base 1, see it up top, plus 12, which is base 2, the bottom, times the height, which is 4, if you can see the dotted line, that's the height, divided by 2. 72, 6 plus 12 times 4 is 72, divided by 2 gives us 36 centimeters squared. Now remember, the front and the back are identical, so we can do the exact same thing again. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. 6 plus 12 times 4 divided by 2, which is 72 divided by 2, gives us 36 centimeters squared. Now we have our 2 trapezoids taken care of. Now we have to find out the other 4 sides. So let's look at the top right here. It's a rectangle, so we know that we find the area of a rectangle by length times width, okay? So if we look, here's our rectangle, 6 times 8. Can you see that? 6 times 8. 6 times 8 is 48 centimeters. Now let's look at the bottom. We have length times width. So we have the bottom is 12 times 8. 12 times 8 is 96 centimeters. Now we have 2 sides. Okay? We have length times width, so we have the 2 sides. Here's the side, and there's another side over here. So we have 8 times 5. So we have 8 times 5. 40 centimeters times 2, because we have 2 sides. So we have 80 centimeters squared. Whew, we got that taken care of. Now we have to add them all together. So let's go over here and let's look. We have the front at 36 centimeters. We have the back at 36 centimeters. Top was 48 centimeters. The bottom was 96 centimeters. Side 1 and side 2 was 80 centimeters each. So when we add all of those together, we have 296 centimeters squared. Y'all are doing a great job. So let's look at them one more time, okay? Our first aquarium, it took 2,592 centimeters squared to cover that aquarium in bubble wrap. Aquarium 2 was our triangle. It took 152 feet of bubble wrap to cover that aquarium. That's a really big aquarium. And then our bottom aquarium, which was our trapezoid, it took 296 centimeters of bubble wrap to cover that one. Y'all are doing a great job today, a really great job. So let's review just a little bit and make sure we understand what surface area is. Okay, surface area is the amount of space covering the outside of a three-dimensional object. Remember, like our box, top, bottom, front, back, side, side. We always need to make sure that we are covering every area of our figure, whatever figure that may be. Triangle, rectangle, cube, trapezoid. So remember, like see right here, left, front, right side, back, bottom, top. Every side of a figure needs to be covered when we're working on surface area. Okay, next week, we're going to be talking about random sampling. Here's my question. Who likes chili Crispitos? I like chili Crispitos. I miss the cheese, but I like the chili Crispitos. So your question for next week to get ready in order to learn the lesson for next week will be, here's your question. How could you find out how many people like chili Crispitos at your school? Do you just go ask anybody? Do you ask the teachers? How are you going to figure out how many people like chili Crispitos at your school? So next Tuesday, we will be talking about random sampling. Ask your brothers and sisters if you have any, or ask your parents if they even know what chili Crispitos are, because we do. I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you learned something about surface area. And remember, next week, who loves chili Crispitos? It's Ms. Trenholm signing out. See you next week.